Adventures of Batman with Robin, Boy Wonder. Batman and Robin, dynamic duo against crime and corruption, whose real identities as millionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne and his young ward Dick Grayson are known only to Alfred, the faithful butler. Ever alert, they respond swiftly to a signal from the police, and moments later, from the secret Batcave deep beneath Wayne Manor, they roar out to protect life, limb, and property as Batman and Robin, Cape Crime Fighters. Batman and Robin, scourge of Gotham City's kooky criminals. The Joker, clown prince of crime. The Penguin, pudgy purveyor of perfidy. And the cool, cruel Mr. Freeze. Watch out, villains. Here come Batman and Robin.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're back continuing our journey looking at that 1968 Filmation cartoon series, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, Boy Wonder, as Ted Knight used to say every week in the opening credits. And joining me on this journey, as always, is the man with the plan himself from 13thdimension.com, Mr. Dan Greenfield. Hey, Dan.
Hey, John.
How are you?
The man with the plan.
You're the man with the plan, yes.
Yeah, awesome.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this because I was just thinking about this as we've been getting into these later episodes. The cartoon's starting to hit its stride.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say sharper, but there's definitely an edge to them that was missing in some of the earlier ones. That's true. We are kind of at cruising altitude here.
Yeah, we definitely are. And because of it, then they're starting to get a little more ambitious because I'm seeing coming down the line, we've got Scarecrow, we've got Doll Man, we've got the Pie Man. We're going to have some variety, too, to talk about.
Yes. Yeah, I think they probably started getting tired of doing the same villains over and over again. And at some point, I don't know, and not to get ahead of ourselves or anything, because we still have, more main villains to talk about here. But I think that they started to get like, I'm guessing the writer started to say, we're kind of at cruising altitude here. How about we start introducing some other characters? So we definitely have a lot more different stuff to talk about as we get into the second half of the run.
Yeah, definitely. Now, before we get started here, I just wanted to take a quick moment. I got a message recently on Facebook, on the Batcave podcast page, Facebook page, from Lou Fiorillo. And he wrote me about his 10-year-old son, Jack, who it turns out is a huge fan of Batman 66 and a fan of this podcast.
That's great. That's just great to hear. I mean, that a kid in this generation is that into Batman 66 that warms my warms my soul.
Warms my soul that he's this into Batman 66 that he's listening to our podcast, and from what I understand, he's also listening to other Batman 66 related podcasts. It is.
Keep going, kid.
Yeah. Now, recently, Jack had open heart surgery, his fourth since birth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that makes you a superhero, Jack. I'll tell you that right now, kid. That's fantastic that you keep fighting, and we wish you all the best here at the Batcave podcast in 13th Dimension. You get better, and you keep fighting. Definitely.
Now, last I heard from his father, the surgery went well. He's got a long road to recovery ahead, but he's doing all right.
I'm glad to hear that, and I hope it all continues to go well, and you're definitely in our thoughts, and you keep listening, and you keep watching.
And, Jack, when you're feeling up to it, I just want to extend an invitation. If you'd like to come on the Batcave podcast and talk about an episode that you enjoyed the most, I'm here for you, buddy.
And we'll tell the world about it on 13th Dimension.
Yes, definitely. So thank you so much for listening, citizen. So let's get talking about this episode. It's pretty momentous, and at the same time, it's kind of like, hey, wait a minute. Haven't we seen this before? And aren't we going to see this again?
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. This is a remarkably prescient episode.
Yes.
Of Filmation 68. Why don't you introduce it?
Okay, so it's called Hizzoner the Joker. And right off the bat, like I said, we've seen this before because we had Hizzoner the Penguin. It aired November 2nd, 1968, written by one of our favorites, Dennis Marks.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. November 1968, a watershed time in national politics in the United States. It was a huge election that year.
That's
and
right.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking, this is when Nixon was elected. This was the year, 1968 being an extremely tumultuous year. And I mean, if people talk about 2016 and 2017, and, before that, the year they used to talk about was 1968. Very interesting that this episode, which aired right around Election Day, was an election episode.
True. And it's funny, too, because if I remember correctly, the Penguin episode also ran around Election Day of that year.
Yeah, which makes sense, too. And it is interesting that they went back to this well for this one.
At the Gotham City Treasury, a secret withdrawal is made by the merry minions of the Laugh King of Larceny, the Joker. But now what? Why is the Joker robbing the city treasury and giving the money to the mayor? What kind of joke is this?
Yeah.
Yep. What is the Joker up to?
And it doesn't seem like it's a joke, as we quickly find out, because he calls a press conference the next day and charges the three with corruption.
I love it. It's great. It's so different than what the Joker normally would do. It's not like he's running around, stealing playing card rubies or silly stuff like that. Now, he's got a plan here. And it's a remarkably sophisticated plan.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. For this show, it is definitely sophisticated.
Now, one thing though, did you notice the call letters on one of the radio TV station mics?
This is so horrible. It's KKK. when you are panning the crowd and they show the mics and that had, they knew what they were doing. There's no way that they didn't know that they were doing this. So in the crowd, there's the radio station KKK, which is just horrible. But again, as you'll find throughout the entire episode, there are all these political references and remarkably, like I said, prescient references to rigging elections. And basically what happens here is the Joker's trying to drain the swamp is what's happening. That's what's happening. He's had enough. He's had enough with what's going on in Gotham City politics. So it's up to him bigly to take over and install his cronies with rigged election boxes and to basically sweep into office in Gotham City to clean things up. He wants to make Gotham great again. Is what he wants.
The only thing he needed to do still was come down an escalator to start his announcement.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So anyway, he does announce he's running for mayor, and when the Joker's thing has been confirmed that he's definitely doing it, we get this odd comment from him. He's going to be mayor, so help him, Professor Ludendorff.
Yes, because we all know who Professor Ludendorff is. Or should I say it's Batman who knows who Professor Ludendorff is.
Correct. Yeah. And it's Ludendorff who's creating those devices to rig the voting machines.
Yes. Yeah, an electronic hacking in 1968 of voting machines so that the Joker, regardless of the fact that anybody, the entire citizenry is likely to vote for somebody else, that they magically, through these devices, with the help of Russian hackers. Now, I just made that part up because Ludendorff sounds like a German name.
Correct.
To actually get elected. And he does. He gets elected.
He gets elected.
But I'm jumping ahead, I guess.
Yeah, because first of all,
I knew you could do it, Professor Ludendorff. No, Mr. Joker, please. days. With one of these gadgets attached to every voting machine, I will be elected mayor of Gotham City. By acclaim!
Forget it, Joker.
Get them!
Bat fight breaks out.
All right, you cowled creeps. This is it.
And Joker manages to escape by releasing...
Batman! What's that? Argon electrical gas. Holy explosive! What do we do? Move! Fast!
Yes, yeah. I like the specificity of it.
Yeah. Now, there's also, again... and it's funny because we've pointed this out in the 66 series, how sometimes there would be little commentary about society and here we get it again. Robin saying,
That's not democracy, that's larceny. It's anarchy. Let's go, Robin.
Right. It is, again, remember, one of the things that we've said through all of these episodes is that these are written for kids. Versus, or I should say, they were not written all ages. Like if you're watching like the Bruce Timm cartoons from the 90s, those were written for all ages. In other words, you and I could enjoy it, teenagers could enjoy it, little kids could enjoy it. These were written by middle-aged dudes who thought this is what kids would want. And so, as we've said, there's a lot of Filmation logic. There's a lot of shortcuts that are taken in the storytelling. As we know, the animation is, charmingly, offbeat. But they generally kept to, pretty basic concepts. Now they're really getting into satire here. They were writing. I mean, they had to assume that no adults were watching, so they were definitely doing it for themselves. Either that, or Dennis Marks, who wrote the episode, wrote it, and his editors either weren't paying attention or didn't care, and they were just moving it along. What's next? What's next? Because I think that also starts to happen. A lot of these guys figure out, nobody's minding the store. They're just trying to get the trains running. So. I don't think that this is necessarily Lou Scheimer's political, discourse here.
Right.
I think it's more likely that this is like what Marx was doing with maybe one of the other writers, and they were joking around, and he just decided to throw in all these political references, especially when you consider what was going on in 1968.
And it's also ironic because, Robin says it's larceny. Batman goes, no, it's anarchy. And that's kind of ironic about today.
Right. Yes, it's another thing. And that jumps out at me, and I'm thinking, what year is this? Is this 1968 or is this 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the two head to the storage place where the machines are being held. They manage to catch up with Joker, but then they are trapped in one of the machines.
I love that. That is so classic because the quote unquote death traps are always related to whatever theme that they're working on. But the idea of Batman and Robin being trapped in voting machines is flat out hysterical. And again, it goes to that whole thing. It's the metaphor of it. And I also kind of like it too, because when I was a kid and we used to have the old fashioned voting machines with the big lever that went chunk. That really made you, it's only been a few years since we've started doing the electronic voting. We here in New York, we still had those machines up until about 5 or 6 years ago. I love those machines. They were the best. And you got into behind the curtain, and it was really old school and analog. And when you heard that sound, it really made it sound like your vote counted. Chunk. But I always thought that was like a really cool idea. And I remember when my mom would vote, I'd go with my mom, and I was like, oh, man, I really want to go in there. That looks really cool in there. So the idea that Batman and Robin get trapped in a voting, I know it probably says more to me than it does to the average person, but I just think it's particularly neat.
Just going off aside a second, you said that like it's only been like maybe the last 5-6 years since we've gone electronic here in New York. And I remember in just the last election standing there and thinking, God, I don't feel like I have my vote being as private.
It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel that. Yeah, it doesn't have that satisfying. It is weird how that junk sound always made it feel like my ballot went through. My vote counted. Now it's like, and then a little screen says your vote counted, and I'm like, Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
But see,
sad.
I didn't even have a booth. I sat at a table, I filled out my form, and then I went over and there was a machine. There was one machine and to me it was like there was nothing private about it. Like, this is my vote, my time, with the curtain, with the curtain and all. You know, I didn't get that.
I love the curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
That's when I could write in Kermit the Frog.
You know, and then when you did the ka-chunk, the curtain opened, you're done.
You're right.
You know?
And the curtain swishes open. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. I miss that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so
All right.
the two are tied. Now, you got to wonder, you know, the timing of all this, because basically they're held until Election Day. Is it the next day? Is it a week later? Is it? I mean, but we'll accept it. They're held until Election Day, and it quickly comes, and Joker wins.
Yes, of course. He wins, and I always love these, you know, and they did this on Batman, the TV show, and they would do it in the comic books too, to a lesser extent. But whenever they take these multiple felons who, you know, who have been convicted time and time and time again, and all of a sudden the populace is supposed to think that, okay, they're reformed. Now, of course, the Joker, you know, this is different than what happened in Batman 66, because in that episode with the Penguin, you know, the Penguin, in a way, it was definitely a lot shrewder and a lot sharper satire by having the Penguin as a criminal actually win the election outright over Batman.
Right.
Here, at least they make the point that, yeah, it's rigged, bigly. And, you know, that's the only reason that he won, but the election is the election. I also like how he's instantly mayor. There's no transition, you know, there's no recount, there's no anything. It's like, I'm mayor now. Okay, so now Joker's mayor instantaneously.
Yeah. We don't even get that transition time, inauguration.
Yeah, there's no no, he's like, I'm mayor now. Yeah. Good civics lessons, kids. Civics lessons.
And he puts his team in place. He's got Riddler taking over for the DA, and Penguin is the chief magistrate.
Yes, it's awesome. I mean, you got Jeff Sessions over with this chief man. No, I'm kidding, but not really. It's true. He's got the Penguin if only Two-Face were around, because he should have been the district attorney.
There you go.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. That would have been perfect. But Two-Face, as we know, was kind of on the shelf at the time. That's okay. We've got the Riddler as the district attorney and the Penguin as chief magistrate, because of course. And it's a new world order. Gotham they've drained the swamp. Now they've done what they're there to do. And all of the good people are there.
And all the good people are there, and yet the only ones who seem to be resisting in this particular case, because I guess we don't have social media, Gordon and O'Hara refusing to do.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going on in the rest of the city. We have no idea what the Gotham, the left-wing media, Gotham Gazette, how they're responding to all of this with their fake news.
Yeah.
We don't know, but, as far as the Joker is concerned, he's winning.
Yeah.
His even if his approval ratings are at 33%, the Joker, he's, because the stock market's still okay.
Yeah, you never hear
that's it.
Going on, so.
Right, exactly.
I will not go along with this.
And neither would I.
I sentence you to 30 days in the pokey.
Take him away.
In 30 days, I'm afraid there won't be any Gotham City left.
Sure, and they'll have stolen it all away.
It looks bad, very bad indeed, with all our friends in jail and all their enemies running the city. Stay tuned for the exciting conclusion coming up next.
Think about it. When the decisions of one man can affect the future of your family for generations to come, what kind of a man do you want making those decisions? Think about it. Who is the one man who has the experience and the qualifications to lead America in these troubled, dangerous times? Nixon's the one.
when the Clown Prince of Crime becomes mayor of Gotham City. Chief O'Hara, Commissioner Gordon, and even Batman and Robin end up in jail.
Right.
Utility belts are taken away, so they can't escape that way.
No,
Alfred is watching this on TV, and he decides to do something. And I love this. He's
resist, like, Alfred.
Resist.
#resist.
He says, to the Batcave, and then he slowly walks off.
Right. But I love, I was watching last night, and my son, he says, I love it when Alfred goes into the field. That's the best. And it's true. When Alfred gets his, I'm putting down the feather duster. I've had enough. I've got to jump into action. Now, they could have had Batgirl, I suppose. I mean, it's like her dad's in jail.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, they bring in Alfred, which is awesome, The tuxedoed butler, coming to the rescue.
Maybe she was too busy dealing with all the budget cuts that Joker did to the library.
That might have been it. Yes. Yeah, that could have been it. Yes, of course. That makes all the sense in the world, because I'm sure that he would have cut the budget entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alfred goes and takes the Batcopter, which we see he's not too steady with in the flying.
Right. But he's game. He's Alfred.
Yep.
He's multi-talented.
And he uses a hook to rip open the window, the barred window, and Batman and Robin escape. They leave the commissioner and O'Hara behind.
I love that. I love that. They just like, you guys are on your own. We'll take care of this. You just stay here.
Yeah.
As if the Joker's guards or whatever, his version of ICE, I guess, is going to come by, and they're going to not like have a problem with the fact that there's now a gigantic hole ripped in the wall, and two guys are missing. So they couldn't take all four of them in the Batcopter? They couldn't fit, I guess. But yeah, all right, you guys stay here, stay in jail, and we got your back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If I were the commissioner, I'd be like, Batman, I'm not so sure. But hey.
So what I love, though, is they go back to the Batcave, and since Joker has their utility belts, they're able to overhear his conversations.
By activating our confiscated utility belt radios, we'll hear every word they're saying.
Good. I want complete police protection tonight when my friends and I pay a visit to the city treasury.
City treasury, eh? Check. To the Batcopter.
And they didn't even need G. Gordon Liddy to do it.
They didn't even need G. Gordon Liddy or
For you kids out there, G. Gordon, forget. Look it up.
Yeah,
G. Gordon Liddy, look it up. We don't need to get off on another tangent. But anyway, yes, there was this scandal that seems quaint by today's standards. It was called Watergate in 1972. And like I said, it's basically a rated PG version of what you're seeing going on right now. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, they didn't have to be
to all of our friends on the other side of the aisle, hey, it's all in good fun.
Yeah, there you go. They didn't have to be G. Gordon Liddy or Russian mafia members.
No. Yeah, they didn't have to be oligarchs. Yeah. Oh, boy.
So they overhear Joker talking about going to the Treasury, and they try to stop him, but they're cornered by the police, only managing to get away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, he tells them to shoot at them, doesn't he?
Yep.
I love in cartoons when the cops shoot first. I love that. It's like, what? And shoot. No, wait. That's not really proper procedure.
Well,
but okay.
Again, you could argue that's in some cases today too.
Oh, wow. Yes, boy. Yeah. Yes. Wow, we're going to move right on from that one. That's,
exactly.
Yeah.
So in the Batcopter, Batman tells an Arliss Robin, got another slip there, that the two others, Penguin and Riddler, will eventually want to start committing their own crimes since they've got this freedom.
Well, look, if the Joker may be demanding loyalty, but, sometimes, when you're heading up a big department like Justice, like the Penguin, where maybe you think that, your approach is the best, and maybe it's going to cause some conflict between you and the mayor. And, so Batman, I think, has it right. Eventually, everybody has their own agenda, and they're not necessarily going to want to listen to the man in the corner office or the Oval Office.
The guy with the weird hair.
The guy with the weird hair. Yeah, they're not gonna want a guy with the weird hair and the weird facial color. They're not. Sometimes they're gonna want to do their own thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes for a good reason. Sometimes for a not so good reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm being fair.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, because Penguin is a man of his own means as well, and he goes, he does, and he goes off by freeing all the crooks from jail and sending them on a crime spree.
It's like, it's like being against environmental regulations and running an environmental regulation agency. That's when I'm thinking metaphor here for what the Penguin is doing. A criminal. Maybe I'm putting too fine a point on it. Anyway, yes, of course he's the chief magistrate. Of course he's going to free all the criminals. This is what the Penguin said. He's in charge. Have them all report to me. Remand them all to my custody. That's governance.
Joker learns about it and orders the Batmobile brought to him.
Yes. Yeah, because he doesn't understand the limits of his powers. He just thinks that he doesn't really understand that he's an elected chief executive. He thinks he's king. So bring me the Batmobile. Bring it to me.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very, I'm surprised he didn't rename everything Joker this and Joker that. I think that would have been too much.
Big Joker right outside City.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah. So anyway,
okay. The dynamic duo spot Penguin's men. They follow them to Penguin. And Penguin, Batman, and Robin are all caught by Joker, but the duo manage to escape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they also find a clue from the Riddler, because again, the Riddler can't be the Riddler unless he leaves a clue behind about what he's about to do that goes against what the Joker wants.
The Joker's been trying to figure out this riddle, Batman. What makes a plant die?
What kind of plant would interest him?
A defense plant, maybe?
At this very moment, at the top secret Gotham defense plant.
Look, Mr. District Attorney, if these secret plans fall into the wrong hands,
Your plant will die, eh?
The leaks.
The leaks.
It's the leaks. The Riddler, at least he understands that certain information needs to get out there to the public. But of course, this drives the Joker crazy because it's leaks.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So thanks to Riddler's clue, they managed to catch up with him as well as his Riddler car.
Of course, because the Riddler car, yes. The big question mark on it.
The big question mark. And I just saw that thing driving, and I'm like, there's Dan's next toy. I'm
telling you, man. I know we keep saying this, but I'm assuming, I don't know how many of your listeners are jumping in or various, you're listening all the way in order or jumping in at various points during these recaps. But yeah, I mean, I love the vehicles. I want a set of Filmation vehicles and Filmation figures for that matter.
Yeah.
I want them.
Especially now since we're getting into, like we said, the more, the made up stuff or things like Scarecrow's coming up. So
Simon the Pie Man.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're about halfway through and we still haven't even gotten a whole Simon the Pie Man. I can't wait for that.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway,
now that they've got Riddler, they got Penguin, they catch up with Joker, and we find out he's getting ready to kill Ludendorff because Ludendorff knows about the rigged machines. He manages, though, to capture Batman and Robin, and just like, again, here's another tip to the 66 series, he ties them to the shooting range targets.
Yes. Yeah, this is a good sequence, and it is because that was always one of my favorite death traps in the I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've ever done a 13 best death traps at 13th Dimension. I really should. Because there's so many good. I really should. Because I really do have my favorites, and this was one of them. The one on the TV show or the live action show where they're at the shooting range and the Penguin gets them to fire shots, and of course they get out of it and all of that. But yeah, this is basically the same thing. Gordon and O'Hara with guns, and I also like how the Joker orders O'Hara to come downstairs. You need shooting practice. You come down here right now.
Yeah.
And of course, he complies. And Batman and Robin and Ludendorff are there. And then, of course, right when they spin around, they recognize that oh my God, it's Batman, Robin, and Professor Ludendorff. So they very quickly fire off to an angle so that nobody gets hurt. But yeah, it's a really cool. It's cool. I like it. It's a good sequence.
It's a cool sequence, but it's funny too because it sort of ties into something I did a long time ago with Ken Reed on one of the episodes. We talked about how Gordon and O'Hara are the odd couple in Batman.
Oh yeah.
You know,
they really are.
Because he says, O'Hara, come down. And then Gordon goes with him, follows him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are the Felix and Oscar or the C-3PO and R2-D2 of Batman 66. When you think about it, you know, I'm not sure which is which, but though I guess. See, C-3PO drives me. I mean, we're getting on so many tangents on this episode, but C-3PO drives me crazy, and of course, everybody loves R2-D2. But on the show, I guess. I mean, let's put it this way: Gordon is definitely Felix Unger. He's definitely Felix Unger, and O'Hara is definitely Oscar Madison. Yeah, I wouldn't see him. He's actually the more annoying of the two characters. I love Commissioner Gordon on this show. I love him. I think he's great. And Gordon and O'Hara is kind of funny in the sense that he's often the voice of reason. He's like, nah, you know, this doesn't smell right to me. He's often the guy's like, I don't know about this. You know, although he's also the you know, if Batman's kind of if Batman isn't looking too good, if they're doing one of those episodes where Batman might be corrupt, O'Hara's always the first one in when, like, I don't know if I trust Batman, and Gordon gets really upset, like, you know, veins popping, how dare you? But anyway, yeah, they're the odd couple, and yeah, I guess they sort of are here because they're basically the same characters. Right.
Yeah. So they get out of it, like you said, and it's this convenient switch. Okay, right by Batman's foot, we got to move things along. So
it's great, right? Sure. And so should we, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So they find the Joker is at this nearby theater, so they arrive there.
And so, fellow citizens, thank you for... we're a little late, so good night, folks. Professor Ludendorff showed us all how the Joker stole the election. And thanks to you, Gotham City has good, clean city government again for 4 more years.
And it's a quick wrap-up then. It's like, it moves really fast as they capture the Joker, complete with a reverse R shot from Robin.
Right. Oh, I love the reverse R. You know, somebody, and it's not going to be me because I do not have the time, but somebody, please start cataloging all of the reverse bat symbols, the reverse R's, the R's on the wrong chest, wrong side of the chest. I would love to see a whole gallery of them all because they're just great. And every time it's like a drinking game. You think that you should drink every time you see one, and I love that. But also I love the fact that they were able to get the Joker without having a special prosecutor or special counsel and panel grand jury. I mean, they went right to it. No multi-year investigations, no anything. It's just, let's put him in jail. We're done. We got him.
If only we're that simple.
That's justice, man. the speedy wheels of justice.
Oh. Now you got me thinking, though, that maybe for the next thing on the Batcave podcast website, maybe I'll do the gallery.
Oh, man. Hey, look, God bless you if you do it, John. Go crazy, man, because believe me, I would love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, I liked this one. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It is so much fun. And I know, and again, to your listeners, if you haven't turned us off at this point, this is all in good fun, of course. You can't ignore the parallels. I mean, I guess we could have, but why would you want to? It is a really fun episode, and it's clever. It's filled with Filmation logic too. It's filled with that. This doesn't make any sense at all as you're going along, but it doesn't matter because it's so entertaining. It's such a kick. And when you do, in all seriousness, look at what was going on in the world at the time, and you see what's going on now, there's a good core of political satire here that is actually very entertaining. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Now the question is, can you say the same thing about the next story, the one-parter, Freeze's Frozen Vikings, also written by Dennis Marks?
Yeah, no, this one's just pure slapstick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool, misty morning in Gotham Harbor. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat.
Gotham Harbor Patrol. Emergency. Sighted iceberg in the harbor. And there's a Viking ship with real Vikings frozen inside the iceberg.
Frozen Vikings? What frigid fun does Mr. Freeze, the coolest, cruelest villain of them all, have in mind?
What's interesting is I think this is the only time they do it. I could be wrong. This is like the shorts with the Flash in them, where we get the titles over the cartoon and not a bat logo coming at us with the titles.
Yeah, I think it's just probably timing. There may be a few seconds that they do that. I've always wondered why they do one over the other, but it has to be a time thing. These things were timed to the second because they had to make sure that they had all the commercial breaks and all of that, and so maybe they just found that they needed to do this just to get it out the door.
Right. Yeah. We get to Bruce and Dick actually at the dock reading the ship as it's being brought in.
For no good reason.
Right.
Yeah, for no good reason.
It's like it's not.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to be there.
Batman and Robin. Although why you'd bring in Batman and Robin for a sign too, but it's like Bruce and Dick decide to show up.
Yeah. Well, maybe they were just having lunch nearby and they just ended up walking over. I don't know.
Yeah. Now Dick voices his concerns about the whole thing, but there's a historian who's also there, and he feels this may be real and that they could be brought back to life.
Yes, yeah, right. Because, it is the 60s. It is the Silver Age. This is actually a classic Silver Age idea. It really is. In fact, I've been doing a summer project. I decided to start reading all of the Batman New Look issues, starting from Batman 164 and Detective number 327. And I'm pretty much going to read all the way through the 60s. And I don't know how far into the 70s I'm going to go. I may take a break in between, but as I'm doing everything else that I'm doing, I've started picking up and reading these old issues. And man, I tell you, is it fun? But there's an episode where there's an issue where there's a frozen caveman who was frozen for thousands of years, and he wakes up and he's still encased in flexible ice, and he flies now because for some reason the chemicals in the cave where he was buried allow him to fly and give him like these weird powers. And so he's basically going around Gotham City fighting Batman and Robin encased in ice. So, I mean, what you're seeing here with this episode, that's just a classic, silly Silver Age idea, but it's absurd.
I really need to go back because I was reading I was actually going all the way back to the 40s there with Detective and Batman. I'd found some issues and stuff that I could look through and such. I need to go back and read them again.
It's it really feels great to do it. I've read all of these. I read them all years and years ago, but I just decided to do it, and it's great because the way they smell and the way they look and the ads, and I read all the letters. The letters are great. And for the purposes of your listeners, there will be some of the stuff is going to start popping up on the 13th dimension before you know it, because I have found all sorts of interesting things lurking in there, the stuff that's been forgotten in history. So, stay tuned on that because, or check out 13th dimension because believe me, this stuff's going to start popping up there. But anyway, so the professor, not Ludendorff, but a different professor. They keep bringing professors onto the show, and they're always, they're always these white-haired dudes, with the droopy mustache or whatever. And he's convinced that the Vikings inside this frozen ship could very well be alive, and this is a gigantic historical find, even though it flies in the face of all science.
What's interesting is too, I thought that you say they bring in all these scientists, they didn't have your standard scientist, which some of these cartoons would do, who suddenly was an expert in everything.
Right. Right.
That they could just
they didn't bring in Professor Overbeck. I keep waiting for Professor Overbeck. But no.
So anyway, the two actually do suspect that Mr. Freeze is involved.
Of course, it's an iceberg.
It's an iceberg.
Anytime an iceberg shows up in Gotham Harbor, I mean, it doesn't take Batman and Robin to figure out that Mr. Freeze must somehow be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Freeze then goes and releases the Vikings. And he gets them into his truck. And I love this because they're in the truck. And there is a comment, even though we visually don't see it this time, there is a comment about thanks for the warm spots.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. As we've discussed, my favorite and I think your favorite special effect of Mr. Freeze on the TV show was the George Sanders episode with the warm paths and the cold paths.
Yep.
I love that. And I never understood why they got rid of it. I mean, it must have been a financial thing. It must have been, or a time thing that they didn't, whatever it required to do the special effects at the time. I have no idea, but I love that effect, and I wish that they had kept it because it's so interesting. And this time of year, especially because we're recording this in August, I think of my house like that because we don't have central air. So I go from a warm hallway to a cold room, back to the warm hallway to a different cold room, and then back to the warm hallway to the warm kitchen, and then back to the cold room. So there you go. Little insight into 13th Dimension headquarters.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, I did like this, too, because Freeze is counting on the fact that this has rare scientific value, so Batman and Robin will be hesitant about doing anything to harm the Vikings.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Yes.
And his theory proves true, though, because they get no resistance when they're robbing a bank, especially when the historian is telling, the guards at the bank, no, you can't do anything. Yeah,
it's great. This historian who is just running around and I love the bit also where they show the rampaging hordes of the Vikings.
Yes.
And the way they animate them as a group, like running across the screen, and you've got this professor running after them, like wait for me. It's comedy. It's pure slapstick comedy. And then of course he gets in the mix of while they're trying to get away. Mr. Freeze shoots the freeze gun, or one of them shoots a freeze gun, and it freezes up the roadway, and of course the professor goes tumbling down, and it looks better than the way I'm describing it, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
exactly. So they make their escape, but the Batmobile pursues them.
Now the Caped Crusaders, racing to the scene of the crime, hit the icy street.
Holy sliding pond! The bat chute, quick!
Inches from disaster, the Batmobile stopped. While across town in the Gotham department store, the Vikings strike again.
Gotham department store, roger.
To the elevators, hurry!
Right on the button. Batman and Robin. Let's get him.
Bat fight breaks out.
My specimens! What are those fools doing to you?
Quick, Eric! Over here!
Batman, they're getting away. Come on. Wait. Got a better idea.
The dynamic duo are in the other elevator. Cut the power! The end of the dynamic duo.
Sorry to disappoint you, Mr. Freeze. We used our own elevator.
You caped creeps, stand aside or...
Creeps? You're not real Vikings, are you?
Don't move, dynamic duo.
It takes him this long. Well, he's an absent-minded professor.
Yeah.
And for him, for all we know, this could be his big score. This could have been the one that was going to get him into National Geographic. To borrow a line from Jaws. Maybe this was going to be the one that was going to make him as an historian. All of logic didn't apply anymore, but now he's finally realized, maybe these guys aren't actual Vikings. The fact that they spoke English, the fact that they ran rampaging through sporting goods sections of department stores, robbing banks, all of that was okay. But now he realizes that maybe this isn't quite on the level.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Batman and Robin take the Batcopter, flying out after them because they've escaped on their Viking ship. And I love this. They jump off the Batcopters yelling,
Geronimo!
I know, because every kid did that then. When we were at the pool, you yelled Geronimo when you jumped into the pool.
Right.
But yeah. And then, as you would put it, the bat fight breaks out.
With eyes only for his quarry, the boy wonder races into Mr. Freeze's infamous cold room. An immediate victim of quick freeze, 50 degrees below zero.
Cast off!
Yeah, and it's a really neat animation effect.
It is.
Because it turns into a blue-white negative. Basically he turns from his regular coloring to all blue with a white outline, and it looks really cool. It's really good. It's not just him being like because he hasn't been hit by the freeze gun. He's just frozen by the room's temperature.
Right.
So he doesn't have an iceberg around him or something. It's just a really neat way of illustrating it. So, kudos to the animators on that one.
Kudos to the animators on that one, but then we get the sub pulling away and Batman suddenly becomes Superman.
Yeah, this is great. He takes a piece of the yardarm, I guess, and he lifts it and he heaves it over his head and like a javelin basically throws it with such force and with such an arc, and it goes into the water with such power that it actually and accuracy that it actually hits the rudder of the sub, and it basically stops the sub.
Exactly.
It is easily, to this point in this show's history, Batman's most physically heroic effort.
Physically, I mean, jeez.
Yeah, it's a superpower. It's like out of nowhere. Yeah. But you know what they say? They say that those reports where like telephone poles fall on people, and then people, because of their adrenaline, when like a loved one is trapped, and then they could lift it up, or people who lift up cars when something is trapped underneath because they like have this moment of like, you've heard these stories.
Oh yeah.
So maybe that's what happened. Maybe he realized Robin was being kidnapped, and he just couldn't handle it. So he got superpowers for a minute. Yeah. Right.
Well, it affects the coal systems on the sub, and now Freeze is incapacitated as the internal temperature warms up. Robin is freed, so he takes over the sub, and he uses the freeze gun to freeze the other Vikings.
Yeah. It's really Robin comes through here. Robin, this is definitely one of his big moments in the series. He in a sense he captures the bad guys, and well, good on you, Robin.
Good on you, Robin. To the point where at the end, as they're heading back, the professor comments on how Robin really is the boy wonder.
I love that, and the look on Robin's face. They actually cut back to Robin. They're sitting in the Batcopter. It's the three of them. And he says this, and he cuts back to Robin's face, and Robin just has this grin, like he's like this sheepish, happy grin. Yeah. It's such a great moment because it's true. That actually is a really that's how Robin would react. He'd be very proud and kind of sheepish at the same time. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to me, I'm going to say it's an okay episode. It's not great.
From a plot standpoint, it's ridiculous. It's but it's entertaining because it's funny at least. There's a lot of funny things that happen, especially the really weird kicker at the end when they are flying away, and they've got the Vikings and they've got Mr. Freeze, I guess, whatever, and there is a weird bit of wonkiness with the animation because first they show the Batcopter and it's not towing anything, and then when they cut back to it, they're towing the Vikings in ice. But he says, the professor says to Batman and Robin, he says, "Could you drop them off to my lab? I'd like to take one for a sample." I'm like, "A sample? Who are you? What are you, Joseph Mengele? I mean, are you gonna dissect one of these guys? You know that they're just regular crooks." It's like a really weird, creepy aside, and they're all just like laughing. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. But you're right. It's not one of their strongest efforts in terms of being clever. It's not really a clever episode. It's usually unintentionally funny. But it's a short too, so it's not like you're driven crazy like you get on with it. It's just you kind of like sit there and roll with it. And of course, I'm not crazy about this version of Mr. Freeze anyway. Right. He's that more thuggish Mr. Freeze that he doesn't have any of the style that the other ones had on the TV show.
Right.
But whatever.
Well, that's one thing I noticed. I mean, except for the really clearly defined, like, Joker and Penguin and Riddler, like, they all had they were well established so that you could keep them within their characters. Mr. Freeze, I mean, except for the 3 appearances on the series and then the comic book, the 1 or 2, you didn't really, I mean, Filmation may not have had a handle on him.
Yeah, and it's true. And they did have, 3 different actors playing him on the TV show. But it's interesting that they chose not to give him a German accent, which, of course, he doesn't have a German accent now in the, canonically, he's not thought of as even though Victor Freeze could be a German name, on Batman the Animated Series, which, for all intents and purposes, completely remade the character and is now the touchstone by which most Batman fans, when they think of Mr. Freeze, they think of that version of it, and the comics are all a take on that too. That's one of those cases where that was far more influential than the TV show versions, at least in terms of the comics. But on the TV show, all three actors either feigned or had German or Austrian accents or whatever, and they didn't do it for and I'm only thinking that maybe Ted Knight couldn't do an accent, because in another episode, as we'll see when we get to, when they brought in a German, even though Ludendorff, who did Ludendorff's voice?
That had to be Ted Knight, I guess.
Yeah, so then why wouldn't he? Because he was doing an accent there. So I don't know. It is weird. It is weird that they didn't give him a German accent, but I don't know. Who knows why?
Yeah. In any event, these were two fun ones.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, and it is a kick, and they were ones that when in watching these, and again, as we've said before, when in watching Filmation, I remembered watching these as an idea. Like, I remembered the show, even though I've watched a number of them over the last several years since I was able to get them, online and download them from iTunes, and I had the discs and all of that. I still, I can't say that I've actually sat down and watched all of them to the point where I know them backwards and forwards. So what's also great about watching these now is that you're also like discovering new things. There are things that are like, I don't remember this episode at all. I remember maybe this little glimpse of it. So in that sense, it's always fun to see it because it is really very fresh. On the whole, I think the first, the two-parter, the political two-parter, is far more entertaining and far more enduring in terms of how I'm going to go back and think of this series. The Viking thing is kind of a throwaway, but it's okay.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this episode, Dan, what's happening over at 13th Dimension?
Well, John, everything. This is August, so right now this time of year we actually have quite a bit coming up on for non-Batman stuff. We have a lot of stuff coming up. We're doing a lot with Jack Kirby's Centennial. We've got some other interesting things that are going to be doing, various and sundry with comics. But when it comes to Batman and Batman 66, which is really why your listeners are here, coming up soon is going to be the next animated movie. Adam West's final bow is Batman in Batman and Two-Face, or Batman versus Two-Face. I expect that we will get some kind of formal announcement within a few weeks. I have a story up at 13th Dimension right now that kind of lays out what the possibilities are and what the expectation is. I would imagine the movie will be out in October. That's not official and that's not formal, but it seems like all signs are pointing to an October release. As we know, Adam West did finish his voice work for it. So I think that it's all just a matter of post-production and what have you. And you can go to 13th Dimension, actually, if you want some insight about the movie. Julie Newmar had posted a script page for the movie, and we've got it up at the site also. So I'm looking forward to that, particularly with William Shatner playing Two-Face, and I think that's going to be great. Of course, we continue to cover Funko and all of their Batman 66 because they're the ones who are really flying the flag now for Batman 66 merchandise. But that's not all. We've got a lot coming up on Factory Entertainment's Batcave.
Yeah. And
where that stands and what's going on with that, because that should be out by the end of the year or early next year. And some other surprises that I'm hearing about in Batman 66 land that could be coming as well. So keep an eye out at 13th Dimension. And we are on the Twitter. And we are on the Facebook, so follow us, like us, do all those good things, and you can keep up to date on a lot of Batman 66 stuff.
And that's 13thdimension.com.
That it is.
So that's going to do it then for this episode of the Batcave podcast. Tune in next time. Penguin is back. He gets his hands on a crime computer. And
yes.
This opens up a whole lot of possibilities, especially when Batman uses the Bat computer against it.
Yep, and we also get another. Finally, we get the debut of another villain who we haven't seen at this point in Filmation.
I know, the Scarecrow.
Yep.
I got to admit, just on the face value, animated wise, not the best, but I'm still excited by this.
Yeah. We'll talk.
Exactly. Yeah. So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, citizens, thanks for listening. Dan, everyone, take care.
Take care. Bye now.
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave Podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com. Or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave Podcast.